Hello everyone. In this video we are going to start with diencephalon. Right, here is the picture of the diencephalon that you can see. Right, you can see the parts, right? Thalamus, hypothalamus and the pituitary gland is shown here. Right, now the diencephalon, it is a middle structure which is largely embedded in the cerebrum and therefore hidden from the surface view. Right, you cannot see from the surface. Right, it is hidden in the, or you can say it is largely embedded in the cerebrum. Its cavity forms the greater part of the third ventricle. The hypothalamic sulcus, extending from the interventricular foramina to the cerebral aqueduct, divides each half of the diencephalon into the dorsal and the ventral parts. Right, now here you can see in this diagram, this is interventricular foramina and this is the cerebral aqueduct. Right, now from here to here you can see a line is drawn like this. Right, this line, it represents the hypothalamic sulcus. Okay, so this hypothalamic sulcus, that is extending from the interventricular foramina up to the cerebral aqueduct. Right, it divides each half of the diencephalon into a dorsal part and a ventral part. Okay, now further these are subdivided. Again, the dorsal part, it is subdivided into thalamus, or you can also say as a dorsal thalamus, then metathalamus, including the medial and the lateral geniculate bodies. You can say metathalamus again is a part of thalamus itself, and the epithalamus, including the pineal body and the habenula. Then the ventral part, it includes two areas again. One is the hypothalamus and another is the subthalamus or the ventral thalamus, you can say. Okay, so this is the subdivision of the diencephalon. Now today we are going to learn only about thalamus. Okay, in this video only thalamus we are going to learn about. Now let us see. Okay, now the thalamus or the inner chamber, the Greek meaning is inner chamber, is a large mass of the grey matter that is situated in the lateral wall of the third ventricle and in the floor of the central part of the lateral ventricle. Okay, here you can see this is the corpus callosum that is shown here. Right, so and here will be the lateral ventricle. Right, let us see one more diagram to understand it better. Now you can see here, right, this is the part, this is the thalamus. Right, this area that you can see, this is the thalamus. So this thalamus, it is a mass of the grey matter, right, that is situated in the lateral wall of the third ventricle and the floor, you can see here, right, the floor of the central part of the lateral ventricle. Okay, now it has how many ends? Two ends. It has two ends, anterior end and a posterior end, and four surfaces: superior, inferior, medial and lateral. Right, now let us see this. See, this is the diagram you can observe. Right, this is how it is embedded in the cerebrum. Okay, it is a diagram for it. And next here you can see the poles are shown. Right, this is the anterior pole and this is the posterior pole or pulvinar. Right, this is the anterior end of the thalamus, right, and this is the posterior end of the thalamus. And four surfaces. How we can identify the four surfaces? Here you can see in this diagram. Right, here it is written, this is superior, inferior, medial and lateral. Okay, superior, inferior, medial and lateral, right? These are the 4 surfaces. Okay, now one by one we will take. First let us take the ends. The anterior end, with the anterior nucleus, it is narrow and it forms the posterior boundary of the interventricular foramina, right? This anterior end of the thalamus, it is forming the posterior boundary of the interventricular foramina. Okay, and the posterior end, it is expanded, right? This way it is expanded and it is known as pulvinar, right? Posterior end is called as pulvinar. It overhangs the lateral and the medial geniculate body and the superior colliculus with its brachium, right? Lateral and medial geniculate bodies, they are the parts of the metathalamus, right? That we are going to learn next. Now here you can see the superior colliculus is also shown, right? We'll see in one more diagram where you can see the medial and the lateral geniculate bodies also. Here this is the part of the pulvinar, and below pulvinar you can see this is the medial geniculate body and this is the lateral geniculate body, right? Like this. So it overhangs these 2 geniculate bodies and the superior colliculus with its brachium. So that is about the 2 ends. Next is the surfaces. The superior surface is divisible into lateral ventricular part, which forms the floor of the central part of the lateral ventricle, right? Now again, superior surface we are going to divide into 2 parts. See, the lateral ventricular part, right? That is forming the floor of the central part of the lateral ventricle. This, right? And the second is the medial extraventricular part, which is covered by the tela choroidea of the 3rd ventricle, right? That we will see in one more diagram. Here you can see, now this is showing the relation of the extraventricular part, okay, the medial extraventricular part, which is covered by tela choroidea. You can see here the tela choroidea of the 3rd ventricle, right? Then it is limited laterally by the caudate nucleus, the stria terminalis and thalamostriate vein, and medially by the habenular stria, right? Habenular stria means the stria medullaris thalami, that you can see here, right? Here you can also see the habenular nucleus, right? So these are the structures in relation. Then inferior surface, it rests on the subthalamus and the hypothalamus, that we have already seen in the previous diagram, right? The medial surface, it forms the posterior-superior part of the lateral wall of the 3rd ventricle, and the medial surfaces of the 2 thalami are interconnected by the interthalamic adhesion. Now see, here we can see in this diagram, you can see here interthalamic adhesion is shown, right? So both the sides thalamus, they are connected to each other through the medial wall through this interthalamic adhesion. Okay, the lateral surface, it forms the medial boundary of the posterior limb of the internal capsule. Okay, so lateral surface is forming the medial boundary of the posterior limb of the internal capsule. We have the diagram for it, but you won't be able to understand right now. Actually, you can just see the relation of thalamus to the internal capsule. Okay, that much you can see right now. Here you can see this is thalamus that is shown, right? And this is the internal capsule. The different parts of the internal capsule, they are shown here. Okay, we'll learn later on internal capsule. Now coming back to the thalamus again. So that is all about the surfaces and the you can say this ends, right? I hope it is clear. Next is the structure and the nuclei of the thalamus, right? Now this is very important. White matter, the external medullary lamina, it covers the lateral surface. Now see, there are two layers or two laminas that are present as a white matter in the thalamus. One is the external medullary lamina that is covering the lateral surface, and another is the internal medullary lamina that divides the thalamus into three parts. You can see anterior, medial and lateral, right? Anterior, medial and lateral. Okay, so this division is by the internal medullary lamina that is forming the part of the white matter, right? Now next is the grey matter. The grey matter is divided to form the several nuclei, right? Now first the anterior part it contains anterior nuclei, right? Anterior nucleus in the anterior part. Then in the medial part you have the medial nuclear group, right? Here you can see the medial nuclear group is present, right? The lateral part of the thalamus, that is the largest part, and it represents the neothalamus. It is divided into lateral nucleus in the dorsolateral part and ventral nucleus in the ventromedial part, right? These are the dorsal nucleus, you can see, and these are the ventral nucleus, right? So dorsolateral part lateral nucleus and ventromedial part ventral nucleus. The ventral nucleus is subdivided into anterior, intermediate and posterior groups, right? You can see in the again ventral anterior nucleus, you can see, right? Then this is the ventral lateral nucleus, right? Then the lateral posterior nucleus, and in that again ventral lateral posterior lateral nucleus and ventral posterior medial nucleus, right? This is the dorsal nucleus, lateral posterior nucleus, that is the dorsal nucleus. Okay, let us see the diagram that is given in your book only, so that will be more clear to you. Yes. Okay. So you have to see the number that are given here and the tables that are given here, right? Now see, number 1 you can see the anterior nuclei, right? Number 2 is the medial. Number 3, this 3A, B and C, right? C is in the pulvinar. You can see here, this is the lateral dorsal, lateral posterior and the pulvinar nuclei. Then in the ventral nuclei you can see ventral anterior, ventral lateral, and in the 6 you can see ventral posterolateral nuclei. 7 here, right? That is, we have separated the pulvinar here. Here is the ventromedial, right? Ventral posterior medial nuclei, right? And here 8 and 9 you can see, that is the lateral geniculate body and the medial geniculate body. Okay. Next is intralaminar nuclei. It includes the centromedian. Here you can see the centromedian nuclei are shown, right? They are the lamina. In the lamina, internal medullary lamina, there are nuclei. So they are called as the intralaminar nuclei. There are centromedian nucleus that is located in the internal medullary lamina. Then you can see this midline nuclei, right? These are the midline nuclei, and they are the periventricular gray on the medial surface, and the reticular nuclei on the lateral surface are also present. Okay, so these are the group of the nuclei. Whole thalamus is full of nuclei only, right? So these are the different groups of the nuclei that are present in the thalamus. Next is the connections and the functions of the thalamus, right? At many places we have already heard that there are the fibers that are going to the thalamus or coming from the thalamus, right? So they are the connections and the functions of the thalamus, right? Just try to understand. Afferent impulses from a large number of the subcortical centers converge on the thalamus, right? Exteroceptive and proprioceptive impulses ascend to it through the medial lemniscus, the spinothalamic tracts and the trigeminothalamic tracts. Visual and auditory impulses reach the medial and the lateral geniculate bodies, right? Now these are the part of the metathalamus, but I told you that these are the metathalamus is also part of thalamus only. So visual and auditory impulses, they will reach the medial and the lateral geniculate bodies. Sensation of taste are conveyed to it through the solitariothalamic fibers. Although thalamus does not receive direct olfactory impulses, they probably reach it through the amygdaloid complex. Visceral information is conveyed from the hypothalamus and probably through the reticular formation. In addition to these afferents, the thalamus also receives profuse connections from all the parts of the cerebral cortex, the cerebellum and the corpus striatum. The thalamus is therefore regarded as a great integrating center where the information from all the sources is brought together, right? So it is the main integrating center of the brain where the information from all the different parts of the body is coming to the thalamus and it is integrated here, right? Now the afferents have come, right? The information has come, the information has been integrated. So now next step is the efferents has to go. So this information is projected to almost whole of the cerebral cortex through the profuse thalamocortical projections. Efferent projections also reach the corpus striatum, hypothalamus and the reticular formation. Besides its integrating function, thalamus also has some degree of ability to perceive the exteroceptive sensations, especially pain. Okay, so this is in short or in brief the functions of the thalamus, right? Another table is given in the book. Please go through it, table 28.4. Right, in that you can find all the connections and functions in detail they have given. Right, they have given the different nuclei, right, their afferent, their efferents and their functions, right? So please go through it, and if you don't understand anything you can ask me. Next time we will take metathalamus, right, and with the metathalamus only we will take the applied anatomy of thalamus also. Okay, so that's all about the thalamus. Bye.